When you think of the most important directors in movie history, Alfred Hitchcock's name is always on that list. I mean, his career was just immense, spanning from the silent film era all the way to the gritty new Hollywood of the 1970s. His influence, you can still feel it in pretty much every thriller that comes out today. And look, that's not just hyperbole. Hitchcock didn't just make movies. He literally shaped the language of film itself. You know, the way directors build that nail-biting tension, how they frame a shot to make you feel uneasy, how they play with your expectations, so much of that DNA goes straight back to him. So that's the big question, right? How did he earn that title, the undisputed master of suspense? It wasn't just one movie or one clever trick. No, it was a whole cinematic language, a style, a psychology, and a brand that he spent 5 decades perfecting. So let's dive in and break down how he pulled it off. We're going to start with his early days in Britain, which is where he really forged his style. Then we'll follow him across the pond for his legendary Hollywood career. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what makes a film Hitchcockian. And to wrap it all up, we'll give you the perfect starter pack to kick off your own journey into his incredible work. All right, first up, his British beginnings. This is so crucial because you have to understand, Hitchcock was already a master of his craft long before Hollywood ever came calling. The seeds of everything he'd become famous for, they were all planted right here. You can really split his early UK career into 2 key periods. First, you've got the silent era, where he had no choice but to master purely visual storytelling. And then came the transition to sound, where he didn't just tack on dialogue, oh no. He weaponized audio to create these entirely new layers of psychological dread. And you can literally watch his style evolve through these key films. With The Lodger, a silent film, he first got that master of suspense nickname. Then came Blackmail, Britain's first ever talkie, and he used sound as a weapon. There's this incredible scene where a character just keeps hearing the word knife over and over again, amplifying her guilt until it's just unbearable. And with movies like The 39 Steps and The Lady Vanishes, he basically perfected the spy thriller, playing with themes he would come back to again and again. And all that success, well, it was his golden ticket to America. This is the moment Alfred Hitchcock, the famous British director, becomes Hitchcock, the global icon. This was his golden age. And his Hollywood career was just an unbelievable run. From the 40s all the way to the 70s, he just kept churning out classic after classic. The man didn't just have one peak, it was like he had a whole mountain range of them, constantly reinventing himself and the thriller genre with every single decade. And what a legacy it was! His very first American movie, Rebecca, won the Oscar for Best Picture. Films like Rear Window and Vertigo became these cultural touchstones, studied for their psychological depth. And then there's Psycho, a film that didn't just break the rules, it threw the rulebook out the window and literally created a new genre. I mean, just stop and consider the incredible range of his Hollywood career. He arrives with this atmospheric gothic drama, Rebecca. And then, more than 30 years later, he gives us Frenzy, a film so raw and gritty it felt completely at home in the 70s. That uncanny ability to adapt and stay relevant, that's the mark of a true genius. So we've gone through his unbelievable filmography. But what's the secret sauce? What are those core ingredients that make a film feel so distinctly Hitchcockian? Well, it often starts with one of his favorite recurring nightmares. This one might be his most famous trope of all, the wrongly accused man. From the 39 Steps all the way to North by Northwest, Hitchcock just loved to take a regular guy, an everyman, and plunge him into these extraordinary circumstances he can't possibly understand, forcing him to run for his life. It's an instant recipe for suspense. And here's the key to how he builds that suspense. It's practically a formula. Step 1, start with an ordinary person. Step 2, focus on psychological tension, the fear of what might happen, instead of just cheap jump scares. And then step 3, the absolute masterstroke. He puts the camera and the story in a way that makes us, the audience, into voyeurs. We are right there with the character, sharing their anxiety, feeling what they feel. And you'll find these themes woven through almost all of his movies. He was absolutely fascinated by obsessive characters like Jimmy Stewart in Vertigo. He loved exploring guilt and paranoia. He was obsessed with the idea of the watcher, the voyeur, which is the entire premise of Rear Window. And of course, he was the absolute king of the intricate plot that ends with a jaw-dropping twist you never ever saw coming. Okay, I know that's a lot to take in. With a filmography this massive and this brilliant, you might be thinking, where on earth do I even begin? Well, don't you worry. We've got you covered with the perfect entry point. This right here is your essential watch list. You start with the 39 Steps to see the blueprint of his British style. Then you move to Rebecca for his grand Hollywood entrance. After that, you dive into the deep psychological masterpieces of his peak years with Rear Window and Vertigo. And you finish with the film that changed horror forever, Psycho. I promise this sequence gives you an absolutely fantastic overview of his genius. So there you have it, the roadmap to understanding one of the greatest directors who ever picked up a camera. The only question left is, which one of these masterpieces are you going to watch first?